Imagine this. You're lying next to the person you've loved for decades. The room is quiet. But in that silence, something's missing. It's not about performance. It's not even about desire. It's about feeling disconnected from her, from yourself, from the man you used to be. You haven't said anything. Because what would you say? It's just age, right? But deep down, something aches not just in your body, but in your spirit. A quiet, unspoken grief, like you're slowly fading out of your own life. What if I told you that the path back to vitality, to confidence, to warmth, to feeling alive again, might begin with just a few drops of oil? No prescriptions, no pressure. Just a simple act of care so small, so quiet it might change everything. Not overnight, not like a miracle, but like a man finally listening to what his body has been whispering all along. Because this isn't about fixing something broken. It's about honoring what's still beautifully working inside of you. And tonight, before you sleep, you just might want to try it. Let me show you why. There's a moment that no one prepares you for. It doesn't come with a diagnosis or a clear date on the calendar. It just arrives. You're sitting at the kitchen table. She brings you your coffee like she's done every morning for 40 years. You smile, she smiles back. But something's different. There's warmth, yes, but there's also space. A quiet distance that wasn't there before. Later that night, you're both in bed. She falls asleep with the same steady breath you've always found comfort in. But you lie there, eyes wide open, listening to the silence between you. You can't remember the last time you reached for her, not out of duty, not out of routine, but from that raw, instinctual closeness you once shared. And maybe you've told yourself, it's just age. It's natural. Things slow down, but deep inside, a voice whispers, what if it doesn't have to be this way? This isn't about trying to be 20 again. It's not about chasing performance or perfection. It's about feeling present, about reclaiming the quiet confidence that once lived in your skin, the knowing that you could reach out, hold her hand, and feel like yourself again. That drift you felt? It's real, but it's not irreversible. According to the Massachusetts Male Aging Study, nearly 52% of men between the ages of 40 and 70 report some degree of erectile difficulty. And yet, very few ever talk about it, not with their doctor, not even with themselves. You see, many men over 60 begin to sense this subtle disconnection not because they love less, but because their bodies begin to speak in a language they're not used to hearing. Reduced circulation, less sensitivity, tissue stiffness. Tiny shifts that slowly build a wall not just between you and her, but between you and the man you used to be. But here's the truth. Even a small act of daily care can begin to break down that wall gently, patiently, and powerfully. And the first step? It begins with understanding what's really happening, not with shame, not with fear, but with curiosity. Let's walk through that together. Because the body wants to heal. And your connection? It's waiting to be rekindled. You wake up and notice it. Not in a dramatic way, but in small, almost forgettable moments. Your morning stretches feel tighter. It takes a little longer to get going. There's a stiffness you didn't used to feel, not pain, not exactly, just resistance. And sometimes, when you're alone, you realize certain sensations just aren't as sharp as they once were. This is the part no one warns you about. Not the big scary stuff, but the slow, quiet shifts. The kind that make you question yourself even if nothing looks wrong on the outside. So let's talk about what's really happening. As we age, the body doesn't betray us. It adapts. But those adaptations, if we don't understand them, can feel like loss. Take blood flow. After 60, your arteries, those flexible tubes that once surged with every heartbeat, begin to stiffen. That means less oxygen-rich blood reaching where it matters most. Down there, it translates to slower arousal, less firmness, or sometimes no response at all. Then there's tissue elasticity. The soft, spongy structures that once responded quickly can start to feel like dried clay. Harder to activate, slower to recover. Microscopic scarring, known as fibrosis, can build up without you knowing. Little by little, the body holds on to stress. And those tiny changes? They can rob you of spontaneity, ease, even confidence. And what about the nerves? Those delicate pathways that once lit up with a single glance, a touch, a thought, now feel muted. Not gone, just quieter. Add to that the skin thinner, drier, more fragile, and the experience of intimacy itself can shift from pleasure to caution. But here's the truth. These changes aren't signs of failure. They're signals. Messages from a body that's asking, will you take care of me now the way I once took care of you? And when we begin to understand these whispers, we gain power. Power to restore, to reconnect, to reawaken. You see, the body never stops wanting to heal. It just needs the right rhythm and a little help. So, before we talk about castor oil, let's get clear. You're not broken. You're just overdue for a different kind of attention. Let me show you what that looks like. Let's be honest. If someone told you that a few drops of thick yellow oil could change your life, you'd probably laugh or scroll past. Because we've been trained to look for fixes, fast ones, chemical ones, ones with complicated names and big promises. But what if healing wasn't about fixing? What if it was about remembering? Castor oil isn't new. It's not flashy. And that's exactly why it works. For thousands of years, from the temples of Egypt to the kitchens of southern grandmothers, this simple oil has been used to soothe pain, reduce swelling, calm the gut, and nourish tired skin. Not because it's magic, but because it honors something deeper, the quiet power of consistency. You see, castor oil isn't just a product. It's a practice. A practice of showing up for your body. A practice of slowing down, of tuning in, of touching yourself not out of shame or urgency but care. When you warm it between your palms, when you take a breath and place your hands where your body needs attention most, something changes. Not just in tissue, but in trust. Your body begins to believe you again. And here's the science behind it. Castor oil contains a compound called ricinoleic acid, a rare fatty acid known for its anti-inflammatory and circulation-boosting effects. In a study published in the Journal of Ethnopharmacology, castor oil showed significant anti-inflammatory activity, reducing swelling and enhancing circulation in treated areas. It penetrates deeply into the skin, softening fascia, easing minor adhesions, and encouraging lymphatic movement, all without forcing anything. But beyond the biology, there's the message that you are worth these 2 minutes, that your body deserves to feel safe in your hands again. Because this isn't about performance, it's about presence. And presence is what your partner feels, what your heart craves, what intimacy is built on. So tonight, when you hold that small bottle, don't think of it as oil. Think of it as an invitation to return, to repair, to reconnect. And in the next part, I'll show you exactly how. Imagine a quiet town at night. All the streetlights are off. The sidewalks are empty. Everything still works, the buildings are there, the roads are clean. But without light, nothing moves. Nothing feels alive. That's what aging can do to your intimate body. The structure is intact, but the spark? The light? It dims. But what if you could slowly bring that town back to life? Light by light, corner by corner. That's exactly what happens when you begin to restore circulation, tissue softness, and nerve vitality. 3 pillars of intimate health most men don't even know they've lost. Let's start with blood flow. When you apply castor oil to the perineal area, the space between your scrotum and your anus, you're not just moisturizing skin. You're sending warmth into a crossroads of arteries, lymph nodes, and nerves. Ricinoleic acid acts like a gentle river current, waking up sluggish vessels, encouraging fresh blood to return. More blood equals more oxygen. More oxygen equals more healing, more sensation, more readiness. Next, tissue flexibility. Over time, the soft tissues of the pelvic floor and even parts of the penis can develop minor adhesions. These are tiny knots of collagen that build up silently from stress, sitting too much, or simply aging. Think of them like rubber bands that have lost their stretch. Castor oil penetrates deeply and helps to soften these bands. Over weeks of consistent massage, men often notice less tension, more ease, and even subtle changes in shape and posture. Then comes the real magic, nerve response. Those tiny highways of sensation that once lit up from the lightest touch, they don't disappear. They just go quiet. Chronic inflammation, the low, smoldering kind, slowly muffles those signals. But when you reduce inflammation and increase circulation, the nerves begin to wake up. Not with fireworks, not overnight, but with flickers. Studies have shown that with improved circulation and reduced inflammation, peripheral nerve function can begin to recover even in men over 65. Healing doesn't retire. It simply slows down, waiting for your attention. A new sensitivity. A forgotten warmth. A response that once seemed gone, quietly returning. And here's what makes it all work: consistency. This isn't a pill you pop. It's a pattern you nurture, like watering a dry field each day until green shoots appear. Because when you touch your body with intention, when you create a habit of healing, you're not just restoring function, you're reigniting trust. Between you and your body, between you and the one you love. And that is where intimacy begins again. There's something sacred about touch, not the kind that demands or performs, but the kind that listens. For many men, especially after 60, touch becomes something we give to others, a handshake, a pat on the back, maybe a hug at holidays. Rarely do we touch ourselves with intention, let alone tenderness. But here's a question worth asking. When was the last time your hand said thank you to your body? That's what this nightly ritual with castor oil becomes. Not just a routine, a reconnection. 2 fingers, 2 minutes. That's all it takes. Not to fix, but to feel. To tune in. When you gently massage that warm oil into the perineal area and the base of your shaft, you're not just stimulating blood vessels. You're reintroducing yourself to the part of you that's been quiet, maybe even forgotten. At first, it might feel mechanical, awkward even. But give it time. Because after a few days a week, something shifts. The skin softens. Tension fades. But more importantly, your awareness deepens. You begin to feel subtle things: warmth, pressure, presence. You begin to notice how your body receives touch again. And in those quiet moments before sleep, you stop judging. You stop wishing things were like they used to be. Instead, you simply honor what island. And here's the surprising part. This new relationship with your body, it doesn't stay private. Your partner feels it. She may not know what changed, but she'll sense it. The calm, the confidence, the return. Because intimacy isn't just built in the bedroom. It's built in the small, silent ways you choose to care for yourself when no one's watching. 2 fingers. 2 minutes. Every night. Not to fix something broken, but to remind yourself you're still whole. Let's keep going, because the benefits of this go far beyond what you imagine. When Edward started his nightly castor oil routine, he thought he was doing it just for intimacy. But within a few weeks, he noticed something else. His knees, those stiff, cracking joints that made mornings difficult, felt looser. He could stand longer without shifting his weight. His evening walks with Sarah didn't end with soreness. He even started leaving his cane behind some days. Then came his digestion. The bloating he used to dismiss as just age began to ease. His belly felt lighter. Sleep came easier. And in the morning, instead of groaning to rise, he greeted the day. All of that? From a few drops of oil? Yes, because the body is connected. Profoundly so. When you stimulate lymphatic flow in one area, you're nudging your whole system to cleanse, to move, to let go. Castor oil isn't localized magic. It's a systemic nudge. It gently moves lymph, the silent river that carries toxins, immune cells, and healing messages through the body. When that river flows freely, inflammation drops. Energy returns. Organs function better. That's why traditional medicine from Ayurveda to folk Appalachia used castor oil not just for skin, but for everything. Joints, bellies, infections, mood. Because healing isn't isolated. When you care for one part of yourself with love and consistency, your whole being feels it. Edward didn't just feel better down there. He felt better in here, in his chest, in his eyes, in his voice. His posture changed. His appetite came back. His laugh came easier. And Sarah? She noticed. Not just in bed. In the way he reached for her hand again while watching television. In how he looked at her while she told a story. In the spark, quiet but undeniable, that came home. So, if you think this is just about erections, you're missing the bigger truth. This is about vitality, circulation, presence, trust. A man who touches his own body with care begins to touch the world differently. And the world, his world, responds in kind. Let's keep going. Because one man's story could be yours. Edward never rushed. He was an engineer, methodical, thoughtful, exacting. So when I first suggested castor oil, he didn't roll his eyes. He asked for the data. Then he listened. Not just to me, but to his own hesitation. His words were quiet that day in my office. Doc, it's not that I don't want intimacy. I just don't want to disappoint her. And honestly, I don't feel like myself anymore. His wife, Sarah, had been his partner for over 40 years. They shared a home, a history, even a garden out back. But lately, they'd stopped sharing something else: closeness. Not because love faded, but because comfort did. So Edward committed, not to a miracle cure, but to a small, nightly promise. Every evening, after his shower, he'd warm a few drops of castor oil between his palms. He'd stand in the mirror, look himself in the eye, and begin. 2 fingers, 2 minutes. A gentle massage to the perineum and base of the shaft. A moment not rushed, not awkward, but sacred. Week 1, he noticed better sleep. Week 2, his morning walks felt lighter. Week 3, he felt a strange sensation. Not arousal exactly, but readiness. A quiet aliveness. By the 6th week, something happened. He and Sarah were watching an old movie they'd seen a dozen times. She laughed at a line the same way she always did. But this time, Edward reached over. Not with strategy, not with hope, just with presence. She looked at him, and something softened. That night, in bed, there were no fireworks, no cinematic passion, just closeness, breath on skin, fingers laced, hearts awake. Afterward, he didn't say anything. Neither did she. They didn't need to. At his next checkup, he smiled before I even asked. "It's not about being 20 again," he said. "It's about feeling like me again." And that's the point. Edward's story isn't rare. It's just rarely told, because men like Edward don't look for shortcuts. They look for truth, for rhythm, for rituals that remind them that aging isn't the end. It's a return to what matters. To touch, to presence, to love not as memory, but as daily, living truth. Let's bring it home. Let's be clear. If you're experiencing persistent erectile dysfunction, pain, blood in your urine, or any unfamiliar changes, you must see your doctor. Now, not next month, not when it gets worse, because sometimes what we think is just getting older is actually your body raising a red flag. As Dr. Neil Baum, a urologist and professor at Tulane University, often reminds his patients, your penis is the barometer of your heart. If something isn't working there, it might be the first sign of something deeper. Cardiovascular disease, prostate issues, hormonal imbalance, even diabetes. Your intimate health is not separate from your overall health. It's a mirror. And if that mirror is showing cracks, listen, but don't wait for something to break before you begin to care. Don't wait for a diagnosis to remind you that your body deserves attention. Because what we've shared in this video isn't a replacement for medical care. It's a foundation, a nightly practice, a reconnection, a way to remember that you matter, even in the smallest gestures. And if you're someone who hasn't seen a doctor in years, maybe because of fear, embarrassment, or the belief that this is just what happens, please know this. You're not weak for asking for help. You're wise. Strength is knowing when to act. Wisdom is knowing when to listen. And courage is doing both. So yes, make that appointment. Get your labs done. Ask the hard questions. But tonight, don't wait. Start living again with a 2-minute act of care. Not because it will fix everything overnight, but because it reminds you that healing is not behind you. It's in your hands. And if this video brought you clarity or even a quiet sense of maybe, please like it. Share it. Because someone you love, a brother, a friend, a coworker, might be silently searching for something just like this. And if you haven't yet, subscribe. Not just for more content, but to join a community of men who are choosing to live fully, thoughtfully, intimately. We'll be here every week with trusted advice, real stories, and tools that respect your journey. Because getting older isn't about slowing down, it's about waking up. And your next chapter? It starts tonight.